Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hey everybody, I am so excited to introduce our next exclusive coach for the Coaches Week. And today we are hearing from Paul Revelia, and he is a lifelong competitive athlete, having played basketball, volleyball, good choice by the way, and baseball, finishing a successful NCAA pitching career at Valdosta State University. Athletics kept him anchored in training even while his career moved into IT and software development. And he eventually became inspired to push himself to achieve his best physique and ended up on a bodybuilding stage. And it only took 2 years of competing for Paul to win an NGA Pro card, and 8 years later, he achieved the runner-up position in men's physique at the Yorton Cup. And Paul is the founder of Pro Physique, which is a leading full-service contest prep company, and he spends his time developing his Pro Physique coaching staff, publishing industry-leading content, speaking at fitness and science conferences, and maintaining an active coaching schedule with clients of every level. So excited to have you here, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. I'm going to have to hire you for all my introductions going forward.
I got you. You know, anything you need, just let me know.
Heck yeah.
So, like I said, I'm happy to have you here, and having followed you for a little while, and I'm sure many people listening are also very familiar with your YouTube videos, your podcast, and so I'm excited to bring that here to this platform and have everybody else tuning in and hearing about you. So to give everyone an idea who's listening and tuning in, and of course for you as well, I do have a few topics tailored for just you this episode, and they may come up throughout or at the end only. So for those of you listening, if this is your first time tuning in, we are going to be starting with a philosophy style round, then hypotheticals, and then rapid fire. So every coach is asked the same things unless it was previously addressed in one of their answers. And as mentioned in the last episode, but still important to remind new listeners that this is all about getting some serious understanding about who these coaches are, what their philosophy is, and even asking them questions others might be afraid to ask them. So the intention is for you all to learn not just about them and their style, but also from them and their expertise. And this is not a popularity contest, who's better than who, or, you know, which is the right way kind of fight. This is really about truly highlighting the individual strengths and systems each of these coaches have to offer competitors in their own passionate way, because, you know, we all know everybody's different, and so are these coaches. So you ready to dive in, Paul?
I'm ready.
Yay! Okay, cool. So as mentioned, going into philosophy first. So what would you say your coaching philosophy is?
It's understanding my client's vision and then helping them execute it. I really don't have a one size fits all. It's all about what that individual's goals are.
Awesome. I love it. And so obviously as a coach, you're investing a lot of time and energy into developing these clients. So what kind of mental, physical, or emotional impact or toll does coaching take on you? And how did you handle those types of demands?
Well, that's a good question. So I think it's not that physical, although I have been traveling a lot more than I ever have. And, you know, I'm 6'3", so flying on an airplane is not my favorite thing. But the mental demand is something I probably wasn't prepared for at this level, because, you know, my first couple clients, you know, I had just had one or two clients, you know, 8 years ago. And so going to the show and helping them, and they were happy and it was all joyful. I've had to learn how to deal with disappointment. There's nothing worse than having a girl cry on your shoulders because she was in third call-outs, right? So there's two things that happen in that moment. You either go, this isn't for me, or you go, how do I approach this so it gets better? And that's what I've had to do, adjust the way I do things, be more honest and upfront with clients about how they should approach things. And it's never going to be easy, but it certainly gets better when you set proper expectations and explain things. And so, yeah, the emotional demands on me are just, you know, I get very caught up. I get a lot of anxiety in and around the shows. Anyone that knows me that's been at a show with me, I kind of shut down. I don't type, I don't post. It's very hard for me to do video or anything. As much as I think to myself, yeah, I'm going to document this whole weekend, I get very invested in that moment, that first call out, all that stuff. It's just very, very, it's hard. It's way harder for me as a coach than it is for me getting on stage. I truly enjoy getting on stage. It's fun for me. But when I know how hard my clients work and how hard I push them and how much can change in an instant, I think that's where it, like, I just want them to be rewarded, so that's probably where the most difficult part for me was the emotional toll that the shows take on me when you have people competing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said being honest and really upfront with them has helped to, I guess, kind of take care of some of that emotional strain. So I do kind of want to ask a question that I had planned for you right now, just because it's kind of fitting. So you had made a video last summer about if prep should always be healthy. And I love that you brought this topic to the table. And I think lately there's been a lot of comparison game among competitors and coaches of who can get to the stage with the least amount of cardio and the highest macros. But sometimes the body doesn't respond, or there's more required to get where you want to go. So you had previously, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, so correct me if I'm wrong and it's all good, but I know you had previously been against some methods like increasing cardio and decreasing calories too much. But can you further explain this for the listeners here, that accepting prep is hard sometimes?
Yeah, so when I first got into coaching, I was brought into this world through my coach, who was Lane Norton, who was very much against some of the old school practices that competitors were using at that time, such as very high cardio, very low calorie, drugs, all the things that people were doing to get on stage, only to end up in a worse place than they were before prep started. There was also kind of a culture of competing all the time. People were competing in the spring, in the fall, in the spring, in the fall, never taking a break. So, my early experiences as a coach were like, I don't want to do that to people. I don't want to be the kind of coach that makes someone have to retire from competing after 3 years. If you look at a lot of the early bikini competitors, if you look at the early Olympia competitors, they're all retired now. They're not still competing. They were young. They were 19 and 20. Why did they stop competing? I think a lot of it had to do with the approaches that they were taking. So when I first came into coaching, I was determined that that was not going to be me, right? I was going to do things the right way. And then along the way, you find out that the right way is third place sometimes. The right way is second or third callouts. And then you have to go, okay, it's not about what I want. It's about the vision of the client, which the first thing I said. Yeah. And so I, as a competitor, because I get on a bodybuilding stage, I understand what it's like. I know how hard I'm willing to push myself for that day. And so I didn't want to place limitations on what my clients were willing to do to get to that point. And I realized what some of these other coaches, I won't say names, but other big coaches that have literally 1,000 clients, what they were doing was so drastic, but they were getting results. The problem was they weren't individualizing things, and they weren't explaining things in a manner that left these people in a good place. So what I had to look at was like, okay, there's probably a balance here. There's a time and a place where we can be willing to push, but do so with the understanding of this is temporary and we're going to come out of this the right way, versus just accepting that we're always going to be third place. So there is a balance. There is a place where I'll go with my clients after we've talked and say, okay, this is where we're at. We have to listen to the data. This is what's happening. What do we need to do to push through this? And when I made that shift is when my clients started winning. And so does that mean everybody has to do an hour of cardio or more to get into shape? Of course not. I think what I have become a little bit is a place where people go when they've been with a coach and done a ton of cardio and they're in a bad place. So sometimes I am rehabbing people through preps, but when I get a new client that's never prepped before, and I call them unicorns. They're just, they're already in pretty good shape. They have a nice amount of muscle. They just want to compete. So those girls cruise into shows the first time. The problem is when you go into a show and you don't allow time to recover and you wanted to compete again and you want to compete again and you go through those cycles and you never allow the body to recover, that's when things can get scary. Hours of cardio, low calorie. But I'm less dogmatic in my approach. I have less black and white, right or wrong. It's now what's right for that person and their goals, and what can we accomplish? What are they able to do? And then what's realistic? And then we just have to find the balance there. But yeah, to me, it's just very important to find out what's going on with the individual. Now, there are things I won't do. There are thresholds that I will not cross. But it's gotten a lot less.
Got it. What are some of those thresholds you won't cross?
I don't think getting calories ultra low has much benefit. So I do think there are some calorie, the way we create a caloric deficit to lose body fat for prep is through dropping calories and raising up our cardio or raising up our activity in some manner so that we're creating that deficit, right? Well, I don't believe there's a value in going down to like 30 carbs and 10 fat. I do not think there's a value there. You're actually putting the body in harm's way. I would rather keep calories a little bit higher and keep cardio a little bit higher, or keep activity a little bit higher. I would rather raise up the activity and keep calories higher. I just find that it's a better result. Girls aren't losing their hair. So some of my basements are, I basically won't go below 60 or 70 carbs a day. And that'll only be for short stretches. And I won't go below 35 or 40 grams of fat a day. I just find that those, once you get below that, you're not creating much more caloric deficit, right? So if I'm at 100 carbs a day, most people can say that's a pretty nice number. You feel pretty good on 100 carbs. But if I drop 30 and go down to 70, right, that's only 120 calories.
Yeah.
So 120 calories in your daily diet can feel like a lot of food, but you can make that up with activity versus, trying to just starve the body. And that's where you see things like, hair getting thinner, hormone problems that last well after prep, at least in my opinion. Now, these are all just my experiences, but I find I just get a much better response from people if I keep their calories a little bit higher, but just ask them to do a little bit more activity and based on their schedule and stuff.
I love that. And it takes, I guess I don't really know what the right wording is, but I would personally say it takes a really great coach in person to recognize like that sometimes things need to change, or our ideals or what we previously thought need to change in order to create a different result. And you did mention during that it's important to be willing to push, and it's temporary, but come out of this in the right way. So how do you make your clients' health a priority after having to go through those like pushes, or just at all?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is setting up the post-show goal. A lot of people can do anything when they have a goal set, right? They can literally just starve and do all the cardio and not do anything for 12 weeks. But once the show is over, they have no goal. There's this, we've all experienced the post-show blues. I experienced that as an athlete. When my season would end, it would just kind of be this like period of low, I don't want to call it depression, but you feel like kind of lost and like melancholy. But what I love about the current competing environment is that, if I have a girl that competes and she wins a show, the whole time I'm setting her up saying, okay, if we do well at this show, we need to be looking at what's your next step. Do we go to nationals? Do we take a year off and come back and try to, instead of winning your class, win an overall? So I feel like as long as you're setting up the next goal, then I can help them set up their diet, their cardio, their training, so that we're not treating the end of prep as the end of this entire process. That's where we get into trouble, is when it's just like prep's over, that's it. I'm face deep in a box of donuts. I'm not doing any cardio. So we can come out of it in a responsible manner. That doesn't mean it always goes well, but I find that the goal setting immediately post show, or, even having that mindset really helps. There's no better competitor than the one that just did a show and is about to do a show 3 weeks later. There's no better competitor than that show that 3 weeks later. You just get better and better and better when you have a show shortly after the one you just did. So if we can set up that next goal and say, okay, hey, you know what? Our goal is to win an overall next year. I put that thought in the head, and right now you're picturing it. You're standing on stage all by yourself with a big sword and a tiara, and you're like, man, like that's a nice vision. Well, that can help shape your decisions. That when you're reaching into the peanut butter jar and you've had 3 bites and you could eat the whole thing, you might think, you know what? Maybe it's best for my goals if I don't eat this whole jar of peanut butter. But there's a lot of psychological difference from person to person, how much weight they had to lose to get stage lean, so much goes into it. So it's hard to give a black and white answer, but the overarching theme that I've seen is just having that next goal is the best way.
I totally agree. I actually, and I'm not sure if you know this, and that's okay if not, but I help girls with the post-show blues from the mental perspective. Definitely not from the physique approach. I leave that to the coaches, but I find that having goals is such a huge part of that. And I think that it's awesome that you're incorporating that as well, because there are too many girls who I think just get kind of left behind. Like maybe they do their first show and then because it was a bucket list thing, they're done. And then it's like they're into that abyss, right? It's almost like a black
Yeah.
hole. So I think, having a goal is, of course, very important. And like you said, for some people, it doesn't change things. There's a lot that goes into our habits and behaviors, especially with food or with exercise. And I just think it's awesome that you're taking that into account. And something you brought up as well was how much weight someone might have to lose. And something I wanted to bring up and have your perspective on it, because I think it'd be amazing to hear your take on it. And I just think it would be beneficial for some of the listeners is knowing when it is the right time to diet. And sometimes girls want to get into a competition prep. And you had mentioned too, like sometimes girls will come from other coaches and you almost have to rehab them, but then they're in no shape to really compete, especially with consideration for maybe being in a deficit for so long, or where their metabolism is currently at, or they're already in a higher body fat, but then they're already in a deficit. So what's your take on a situation like this? And how do you figure out someone's body fat set point and if it's the right time to diet and all that jazz?
Yeah, so finding the right time to diet, a lot of that comes down to their excitement level. I like to really pay attention to that. So if someone's like, I'm not ready. I'll give you a perfect example. I'll give you two different examples. One is Natalie Matthews. Just did her first series of pro shows, ended the season with a top 5. Everyone thought, you know what, she's going to go on a run now. We're going to start doing, there's these little shows, the Shreveport show, the Puerto Rico show. She's Puerto Rican. It would have been the perfect fit, right? It was actually one of our shows we were targeting. It would have been a perfect time for her to make a run at some Olympia points, but we did the math. Anyone competing right now cannot qualify for the Olympia. It's simply impossible. You would have to go on you would have to go on a run and win shows. The points are so high. So we made a conscious decision to kind of end the season with the immediate goal of how we're going to get points to qualify when we start competing again. And that was 2 weeks ago. She's up 2 pounds and she feels great. She's just in a good place. Had we pushed her beyond that place and done more shows and let her get into that rundown spot, she might have had a really bad time reversing. So when is it going to be right time for Natalie to diet? Again, it's when it's best for her goal, right? So setting someone up psychologically, she was not excited about competing anymore. It was becoming draining for her. And I think part of that was because we did the math, and to get enough points to qualify for the Olympia for this year, she was basically going to have to win 3 shows, which unless your name is, Issa Piccini or Janet Leone, you're not doing. Or the girl that just won the New York Pro. I think she's won 2 big pro shows and she's doing Puerto Rico. So I know way too much about the bikini division right now.
Yeah. I love it.
And then I have other people that are in the off season and they're maybe 20, 30 pounds over stage weight. And they're like, Coach, I want to get some of this weight off. And my response has to be, my general rule of thumb is you have to be out of prep as long as you were in prep. So let's say I had someone that started competing last May, which means they started prep in January and they ended the season in August. And I have somebody in mind. That's 9 months of dieting, 9 months of prep. I don't want this person going on a fat loss phase until 9 months has passed. There just seems to be a magic place, and there's no, the only rhyme or reason I can think of is that your body just knows you were in a caloric deficit for 9 months. And then when you come out of that 9 months, 18 months later, essentially, your body goes, oh, okay, things are back to normal. Hormones start working, sleep starts working, but you start dropping body weight. It's just this weird place where technically nothing's changed. The calories haven't changed, the cardio, the training hasn't changed, but you just start to feel better and look better. The best example in the world of that would be Emily Hayden, who I'm sure you know. If you look at Emily right now, she's already just about as lean as she was for her pro debut when I was coaching her in 2017. And we've only been in prep for a couple of weeks. Why is that? She took the entire 2018 off. And I don't even think she took it off like she didn't. It's not like she went overboard with eating. She just let go. She just wasn't hyper focused on cardio and hyper focused on her diet. And she even contemplated not competing anymore. She was just done with it for a while.
Yeah.
And then things started happening this year. She just checked in with me one day and was like, I don't know what's happening. I've dropped a couple pounds. I feel better. And she got excited about competing again. And that's when the time is right, when the body tells you that it's right, when you just start to notice that things are back to the way they were before you ever prepped.
I just got the chills. Yes, I love that. It's so awesome to hear that too, because it does take away from that mentality of like keep going regardless of how you feel. And I did a bunch of shows last year and I was like on a high the whole time, but I knew when I needed to stop. I was like, if I kept going, it just wouldn't feel as good as I would have liked it to. And
Yeah.
then now I'm taking a really long off season. I'm finding like my body's just starting to feel like it's functioning at a higher level. It's more optimized. And I'm like, I'm cool with taking more time off. And then hearing you say that just gets me excited as well, because it's like your body knows. And I love that perspective. And I'd love to hear as well, what do you think would make a coach a good coach, right? Because as you had mentioned, there are some people who come to you after working with some coaches, not so great experience. So what makes a coach a good coach?
Well, first, let me start by saying I've been a bad coach. There's certainly people out there that I've worked with that would be like, no, I didn't like him. I don't think that there is a great coach for every single person. I think a lot of that comes down to, when you work with that person. I think as a coach, the one thing I've done over the last 8 years is evolved. I'm not the same coach I was. I don't give out the same plans. I don't give out the same advice. I don't use the same style. Like things evolve. So what makes a great coach to me would be someone that is, in tune with the competitors, but is also evolving and paying attention to what they're doing right and wrong. When a client has been mad at me, there's two approaches there. You can either look at that and go, well, they're a bad client, which a lot of people do. I see that, I see people bashing their clients on the internet. And I'm like, oh boy. Wow. Or you can go, okay, what did I do wrong here? What could I do differently? And when you look at it that way and you take your ego out of it, things change. It's no longer an emotional response. You can go, well, you know what? Maybe I didn't understand them fully. Maybe I wasn't a good fit for them. And so that's why I now do a 30-minute phone call with every single person I work with. I no longer just sign somebody up off the internet. If you, and maybe this is a sign, maybe if you can go to some coach's website and just sign up for prep without ever having interacted with them, maybe that's a bad sign. I don't know. But for me, it's eliminated. I mean, I don't want to say 100% of the failures, but I would say the vast majority. I can't think of the last time that I've worked with someone and it's just gone terrible. It's been a while. And that's because I have to be more in touch with them. I'm a very hands-on coach. I do pop-in phone calls. I send video replies to messages now. And these are all things I didn't do years ago. I used to keep my distance. I was taught by my first coach, like, keep your distance, be just email. And I had to unlearn that behavior. And when I did, I think I became a better coach, but also I understand things on a different level with them now. So to me, a good coach is just somebody that pays attention to what individual needs. Some people don't need to be handheld. Some people just need the once a week check-in and you're doing great, keep going, or here's your adjustments. Some people need the vision almost weekly. What's going on here? What are we doing here? Why do we do this? And that's fine too. But you got to understand what your strengths are as a coach. If you're a certain type of coach, make sure it's clear to these people that, listen, I'm not texting you. I'm not talking to you. That's not what I do. I'm just going to send you some emails. I'm probably going the other way at this point. I'm very hands-on. If I go to a show, I'm going to junior nationals. If I have 10 girls there, I know all 10 of them. I know their husbands. I know what they do for a living. I know what time they wake up in the morning, what foods that they like and don't like. I get very involved because, any idiot can send you some macros and cardio, but a coach has to have the big picture. If I'm going to tell somebody to do 2 hours of cardio a day, I better well know what their life is like. I can't tell a single mom of 3 who works 2 jobs to do 2 hours of cardio a day. That would be freaking idiotic. I have to come up with other strategies. So you've got to understand someone's life to be a good coach. It's not just, and that's when it comes down to those cookie cutter plans when they say, here's the plan, and it's the same for everybody. Well, those are just elimination diets. They're just going to work for a few small percent of the population. And if you have 1,000 clients, maybe those small percent are on the Olympia stage. right?
Mhm.
And then everybody just thinks, oh man, I'm not good at this. I'm not a responder. Not the case. The plans aren't created, and the coaching isn't personalized. I'm probably going to have less clients than most coaches, but I'm also going to be much happier every day because I know my clients.
Mm. I love that. And that was something I was talking to someone about this weekend actually, where he was saying like, is there a way where someone could almost automate the process of prep? And I was like, there's no way. Like you literally can't automate it or put like a one way approach if you want to be really successful, because I've seen girls going into shows like having to carb up on like 800 grams of carbs, some girls having to, go in higher fats or lower fats or whatever it might be. I'm like, there's no way we could ever automate such a process. And the fact that you take so much time to get to know your clients beyond just, okay, like weekly check-in, how's everything looking, but like actually understanding them when you're making the programming says so much about you. And you mentioned that you do video responses for your clients and that this isn't something you've always done. So what inspired you to start doing this, and how has it helped you with that client coach relationship?
Yeah, actually, what inspired me to do that was, so a couple of years ago, I hired my first employee, a guy named Stephen Beaugrand, who was in the grad program at USF. So I went back to school, started studying exercise science, and there was a kid in the class who was pretty vocal, but he was very smart. Obviously, I could, exercise physiology, a very complex topic. I think I underestimated how complex it was when I took the class. But learning about things like the freaking electron transport chain and just all the things that are going on in the body, I was thinking exercise science, this will be easy. But he was someone that immediately caught my attention, and he approached me one day and said, hey, I realize like you have a coaching business and you have a bodybuilding show you promote and you're with a supplement company. Like if there's anything I could ever help you with, let me know. And I said, to be honest, like I have a lot of little things I need help with, like maybe just come over one day. And so he literally helped me. Like I bought a home gym and he helped me put the gym together and put down the floor mats and then, when my bodybuilding show was here, he helped me like put the plaques on the trophies, like all these little things that, you think about being a coach, you think, oh, you just work emails. No, I also have to send invoices. I have to look through inquiries. I have to keep up with my social media stuff. Like there's all these pieces that go into being a coach that you don't really know about until you reach the point where you have a full client load. And then you go, well, what do I do now? I have all these clients. What do I do? Well, I'm getting client inquiries and I can't take on any clients. What do I do? And so he was the solution for that. He helped me with my inquiries. I actually brought him on as a coach. He got his master's degree in exercise science. And he's been with me now for a couple of years. And one of the things I noticed he was doing was he was using a product on Google Chrome called Loom. Mm-hmm. And he was sending his clients videos. And so I was at the Arnold, and one of his clients came up to me and said, hey, I just want to let you know I'm with Pro Physique. I'm one of Steven's clients, and I love him. And I said, well, why do you love him? And they said, well, he's quirky like me, because if you don't know Steven, he's quite awkward, but in a good way. And I love his videos. And I said, love his videos? Because I had for years thought about the idea of sending videos to my clients, but scaling a daily video with YouTube was very difficult because you have to record it, upload it, edit it, then send them the link. And I'm like, I can't do that, every single email I get, right?
Yeah.
And then it kind of dawned on me, like, this is a good idea, but there was no solution because I use Outlook for email. So I'm going to get very granular here and tell you exactly how I use it. So I use Microsoft Outlook on my big computer. I'm an old guy. I like my laptop with my big screen attached. I sit down and work. I can't work off my phone. So when I'm doing that, it's hard for me to send, like in the inbox, if there was a way for me to send a video, I would do it. It would be super easy, right? But there's not. In Loom, you have to open up Google, record the video, and it gives you a link. So it's not that many steps. But when I was already at the volume of work I was at with my clients and my other stuff that I was doing, it seemed like, okay, this is going to be a step backwards for me time-wise. Well, last year in August, I went to North Americans and I had, I think, 12 girls competing, right? And after the show, all the girls were sitting around eating and we were like joking and jovial. And Chrissy Fenner said to me, Coach, sometimes with your emails, we don't know if you're happy or if you're mad. And it kind of threw me back and I thought, why would I ever be mad? But that's my thinking. Like, I'm not thinking like a female competitor. They sometimes thought when I adjusted their macros that I was mad at them. Or if I made a change, they're like, well, why did he do that? They would read into the email, because it's very just like black and white, like do this, do that. And I'm not like, I'm not expressing myself in email a lot because obviously it's a lot of typing.
Yeah.
So I went home, and that week a client checked in with me. A client of mine sent me a video message, and it was like a link in the thing. And I clicked on the video and I watched it. It was like a 1-minute video, and I was like, this is awesome. And it was a product called Bomb Bomb, just like it sounds, BOMBOM, BOMB. And so I reached out to that company and I said, hey, like, I'm interested in using this product, and they gave me a 2-week trial, and it basically plugs into Microsoft Outlook. So if you're opening up Microsoft Outlook, you know how it says like send message?
Yeah.
When you hit the send message button, one of the buttons in the message is video. And I just click the video. I have a webcam pointed at me with a microphone. I record a video, I send it, and it changed everything. Like that moment, everyone was like, oh, this is so much better. And something that I thought would make me less efficient has made me more efficient. Because by sending the videos, no one's wondering what I'm thinking. They got my mood. They got my physical, they're getting my nonverbal cues. So it's been really good. So it was basically inspired by my coach, Steven, who was doing it, and then by my client who sent me her video reply that I thought was awesome.
Wow. That is really cool. And I mean, that's just awesome. I love that it plugs in as well. And when you send those videos, does that mean is that like explaining the protocol you've given them, or is it like you're giving them the protocol through the video?
Well, I put everything in black and white on the email, right? So there's no loss of translation. So if I'm making adjustments to their cardio, if I'm making adjustments to their macros, that's in the email. But the video might just say, hey, we're 4 weeks out. Like, this is awesome. This is exactly where we need to be. I made some changes, but that's just to keep things moving, right? So they get my tone, and it's just more personal. Like, I'll use their name in the video. I think the thing that happened with like Brittany Dawn or some of these other coaches, are just getting a bad reputation. So I think there is a level of anxiety now amongst competitors that they're working with someone that's a piece of crap. So it was a way for me to set myself apart, like, okay, listen, at a time when people are getting more and more worried that their coach is just, a ghost coach, that they're basically hiring somebody to answer. What was the guy that was a Shreds years ago that girl made the videos where she was actually the coach?
Oh, shoot. Was it
Devin Physique.
Yeah, Devin.
Yeah, like that whole thing came out, like that kind of a thing. So there's no way that I could not be the coach, like I'm clearly your coach. I'm talking to you. So it just made me feel, honestly, it made me feel better about my job. I like what I do. There's this weird sense of guilt when it comes to coaching at times because of those people, and you go, man, like, am I bad at my job? So the videos are just, it's technology catching up with the needs. The best coach in the world is the one that sees you every day in your gym, right? That you can like get to know in your gym, like that. Like, but how many of those people actually know what the crap they're doing?
Right.
Very few, right? Like no one's that fortunate. Very few people, and then the ones that are, like, hold on to that relationship. I'm trying to be the next best thing. I'm trying to be the person that's like almost there with you in the gym. Like you can text me, you can call me. I'm going to send you some videos. I'm going to be at your shows every time I can. That kind of a thing.
That's awesome. And so what are some things that you would recommend girls would need to look out for before deciding to hire someone?
I think probably just, like I said, if there's no intake form or if there's no phone call before you start working with someone, that's a problem. I don't know what the resource is right now where people are kind of getting a sense for what coaches are doing, because I think, in my mind, they're going, oh, this girl's Miss Bikini Olympia. Who's her coach? Okay, I'm going to reach out to that person, right?
Yeah.
So whatever, and I get that. I mean, those people are coming into the sport. They're getting attracted to the sport through that. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but, and honestly, I don't think it's really going to change because there's already this level of kind of mystery when it comes to competing, right? We accept going into our first competition that it's going to be hard and we're going to do some weird shit. Yeah. How hard and how weird, how do we know? Like I said, a lot of my competitors find me after they've gone through preps, done it the weirder, harder way, and they go, well, this can't be right. There's got to be a more sustainable approach. And then they find a video of Emily Hayden who's like, having ice cream, and they go, oh wait, how come she can have ice cream? or something like this. And then they start researching like other coaches that have the newer approach. And there's quite a few of us out there. I still think we're in the minority, but it's growing for sure. And so now people are a little more educated and they're going, hey, if you send me a plan, is it macros or is it a meal plan? And if someone says it's a meal plan, they go, well, that's a red light. Okay. If it's a meal plan, then how do you design it? It's just the diet. That's a red flag. It's, and then how people answer questions, telling people that it's just the way it is, or this is how this person does it, or, not giving answers, that's a red flag. Find someone that you have a rapport with, that you get along with, that you feel comfortable with. You shouldn't feel intimidated by them. They should probably recognize you if they see you at a show. I've heard some horror stories. They should reply to your email the same day. Unless you have some, there should be a set up method of communication that you're both comfortable with. I'm not saying you need to send an email at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning and get a reply right away. But, if you're sending an email and not getting a reply for 3-4 days or a week, these are things I hear. Those are red flags to me.
Yeah, definitely. So now, what do you think are some common misconceptions that people have when they come to you, whether that's about the sport or coaching or prep, just some common misconceptions?
I think it's not that many with me, because most of the people that find me, I have, over 800 videos on YouTube right now. And I have like podcasts that I do, the Redefine Healthy Radio podcast with Lauren. And then, Lauren's so busy now that I've actually been bringing my other coaches on, like Caitlin and Steven. And so, my goal is putting out a ton of information to help people, because I don't think everybody can afford a coach, and, that's fine. So if I can help people in that regard, I think with what it does, though, is it kind of takes away a lot of the misconceptions about the sport. And so it's gotten, I think, like you said before, some people think, you can get on stage eating 200 grams of carbs and doing 12 minutes of cardio a day, if you do it the right way. And, I think we have to squash that. That's just, don't compare yourself to anybody else's prep. So yeah, I don't know that there's a lot of things that people come to me with them, because by the time they get to me, they have to inquire. I have to approve the inquiry. I have to set up the phone call. I've kind of done my research on this person before that happens. So if someone sends me a questionnaire and I say, hey, like, we believe in, flexible dieting. Are you familiar with tracking macros? Are you willing to track macros? And they're like, no. Well, I'm probably not going to get on the phone with that person, right? I'm not going to waste my time.
They didn't do their research on you either.
No, and that's fine. Like, listen, I don't take it as a knock against me. I would love it if people would come work for one of my coaches and not even know who I am. I would love that. Most of the business is coming in through me at this point, but Steven's doing such a great job. He's basically not even taking on clients at this point. He's reached the place where I am, where he's very particular about who he takes on, and then I've got Kate, and I've got Tyler and Danielle. I've got all these coaches that are, that are kind of unknown commodities, but I promise you, in 5 years, they're going to be the people that are me, because I was an unknown commodity. If you got me as a coach 7-8 years ago, you're like, who the hell is this guy? But it's almost like a popularity contest. It's like, once you become well known, and all credit to my clients, because they tag the shit out of me all day long in their videos and pictures and stuff. That's why I get the amount of attention that I get now. Because I barely post on Instagram, and my following grows on there. And I think it's just a result of that, but that's how you find out if a coach is good, is if you hear other people talking about them, or, I'm not going to have a coach work for me that I don't feel is going to add value to someone's life. I take that as the biggest compliment in the world when someone reaches out to us for coaching. So, and if one of my coaches has a question, guess who they ask? Me. So you're essentially getting me. I'm writing the peak week plan for my coaches right now. Like for Steven, I'm helping him. For Tyler, I'm helping him. For Kate, so it's the same service that was provided to me by Lane Norton and Dr. Joe Konzeski and Dr. Mike Zordos and Brett Contreras. I have the fortune of being associated with the smartest people in the world in this industry. So when I have a question, I have a resource for every single situation.
That's awesome. Now, what would you say to people who say that politics with teams play a role in their clients' placing, or that this whole sport is political?
Oh, absolutely. I think there is some of that. I'm still learning to navigate it. I think it gets, it's hard to say because if I thought that way, it was too much that way, I would probably not be able to do what I do. But I will avoid certain shows, certain regions, based on things I've seen in the past. My job as a coach is to put my clients in the best position to win. So it'd be irresponsible for me to think that that doesn't exist. It obviously does. I think the information age with Instagram and YouTube and Instagram stories and Facebook, it's made a lot of the sport a lot more visible. So it's gotten a lot better, like a lot better. Um, um, and I think as the bikini division itself has progressed, the guidelines for what succeeds has become a lot more clear. So, it's ever evolving, but my vision for my competitors is exactly what I think Sandy's vision is for the stage. And I think as long as the sport is in Sandy's hand, and I have my girls compete at Sandy's shows, for that reason, I feel that she puts everything aside and judges what's on stage. That's not true. Maybe I'm an optimist, but yeah, I definitely think there is going to be some involvement. Anytime, this is a money-driven sport, and I'm not someone who's pumping a ton of money into the IFBB NPC. This is the first year that I've been involved in sponsoring shows and being a part of the shows, and it has given me some insight into the benefits of doing that. But it hasn't been a pay for placing. It's more like it's been a pay for, I don't know how to say, maybe like involvement. I'm more involved. Yeah. If I have a question, I can call Sandy, right? That wasn't the case last year, right? I can call a promoter and ask a question because I sponsored the show. When I go to the shows, I get treated a little differently. I get to go backstage with my clients and stuff. So there are definitely some perks in being involved in the sport, but I'm still navigating that. So I can't say definitively politics do or do not play a role. I definitely think it's definitely some of the smaller shows and, regions, there's probably going to be a little bit of that. It's a small world. Like if you live in a certain town and there's an IFBB pro that sees you in the gym every day and you tell them you're doing a show and they end up being a judge at that show, well, psychology dictates that that person's going to recognize you over somebody that's never been to them, never seen them, and they're on stage next to them. I catch myself doing it. If I go to a show and I recognize, I've been to every national show the last couple of years, you start to recognize people. So as an example, I'm watching the show and I see a girl come out that I saw in Miami. I go, oh, I remember her from Miami. Oh yeah, she looks good. And then the rest of the group walks off stage and I say to myself, holy crap, I literally just watched one girl on stage. I didn't even see the other 7. So I technically, what did I just do? Political. It was political because I knew them, right? But to me, it's more psychological. It's human nature. And when you understand that, then it becomes important to actually get involved. Like, unless you're Courtney King, you're going to need to do more than one show to win an overall and to win Miss Bikini Olympia.
Yes, exactly.
There's a value in being present. I don't think it's any mystery that Angelica Teixeira, Miss Bikini Olympia, I went probably to 20 different shows last year. I think I saw her at 20 of them.
Yeah.
She was at the Tampa Pro, not even competing. She was at North Americans. She was at, Universe. She was at Junior National. She was in Miami for, what I'm saying? Like she literally is involved in the sport everywhere she goes. Everyone loves her. She's the sweetest person in the world. You root for that person.
Yeah.
There might be somebody that comes from Italy that does one show that looks amazing, has a smaller waist, bigger butt, prettier, taller, whatever you want to attribute to her. But it doesn't show up. Well, is that who they want representing the sport? So there is value. I think the word politics gets used a lot. I think more often than not, it's not politics, it's psychology. But you can't, it'd be foolish to say it doesn't exist. I'm not that much of an idealist.
Yeah, exactly. I totally hear you. And I remember one time, it was actually my very, very first interview on this podcast. And off the record, we were talking a little bit more. And she was saying that this would be a good topic to bring up eventually on the show. And what she said really stood out to me. And it was like, they have it's marketability as well. Like you said, like who is going to represent the sport, who is going to be like the face of it. And Angelica's doing a great job of really being the face of the bikini division. And like you said, everybody loves her. And if someone nobody knew came out, they'd be an underdog and people would probably love them too. But at the same time, you get to know a face. Like I've gotten to know judges just because like I can memorize their face now from walking out so many times. And a few shows is like they don't know you, and then all of a sudden they know you. And I mean, like you said, psychology, you can't really deny that.
Yeah.
But of course, there are other parts of it that luckily regulate that, which is good. So now that's kind of leads me to the next thing, which is what do you think is the difference between a good athlete and then a phenomenal winning champion athlete?
I mean, the biggest thing is going to be genetics. If you take all the girls on a bikini stage and look at them, some are just going to have a tinier waist. They're going to be prettier. They're going to have wider shoulders. They're just going to have that nice look to them, the nice lines. That's something I can't coach. I can't coach prettier. I can't coach a smaller waist. As much as people want to wear the waist trainers, it doesn't do anything. As a coach, the one thing that, people might say, oh, Paul's a good coach. Look at all his clients. I got to say, like, a lot of the benefit of my quality of my clients is because I have this unbelievable pool of clients that come to me. I probably give most of that credit to Taylor Jordan. Taylor was my first like high level bikini competitor that I coached, and she got her pro card. And it's almost like until you do that, no one wants to work with you. Like I literally had a client the other day that I interviewed, and she said, well, have you had anybody get on the Olympia stage? And I'm like, wow, like that's a bold question for a coach. Like how many coaches have had a girl on the Olympia stage? Like 10, like there's not that many. But I said no, like bluntly, like no, I have not gotten that far. I'm just now getting into this realm of coaching pros and getting Olympia points. But like I can promise you, it's going to happen. It's just going to take a little while. But the difference between my girls that are going to get on the Olympia stage and my girls that are going to be first call-outs at nationals, not that much difference. It's just putting a little more time and really getting to be a part of the sport. I don't care who you are not going to win your first time out as an IFBB pro. There are just too many good competitors that have a reputation that when they show up, they're going to place well as long as they look good. And that's the fact. Like I think at the pro level, it's not as much a meritocracy as it is at the national level. At the national level, I still feel like you can come in and be knockout, lights out, game over, and you can win your pro card. The pro level, I don't feel like you can be knockout, lights out, game over. You can be second call-outs. You can be third call-outs. You can be 15 out of 30, which means you just beat 15 pros, but you also lost the 14, right? So, so I think that, and that's one thing I'm learning. I'm learning to, temper my expectations. I took Emily Hayden to the pro stage in 2017, probably against my will. She and I had a lot of talks that year. She was going through a lot of personal turmoil. And she was like, hey, I want to do the New York Pro as my pro debut. I thought, oh, that's a great idea. Well, I got a lot of advice this year about coaching my new pros. And one of the first pieces of advice I got was, do not put your new pros in big shows. And these are things you have to learn, I'm like, wow, Emily's beautiful. Everyone loves her. She's going to do great. She did great. She got 15th or something, at her first pro show, but, learning to navigate that is the next part of the evolutionary process of me as a coach. I can't coach the pros the same way I coach the amateurs, and I can't coach my national girls the same way I coach my novices, right? There's got to be an order of progression.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And so now I want to move into the hypotheticals round, which is really going to give us, I guess, an idea of how you might approach different situations. And so let's say, and this question, every time I've asked, it's been kind of like, well, that's an interesting situation. And I know it is. So I don't know, like, whatever, let's just go with it. So if I'm 1 year into competing with a few overall wins under my belt, and my goal is to get my pro card, but I've never stepped on the national stage, and I've been working with the same coach for 1 year. So in that year of competing, but I was looking for a new approach. Why would I hire you?
At this point in my coaching career, you would hire me because I don't know that there's anyone else that handles the bikini competition process from the ground up as well as I do. I'm basically trying to make myself, and I've said it out loud before, but it's still weird every time I say this, but I'm trying to make myself the best coach in the world at what I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's not quantifiable, right? Like there's going to be people who say my coach is the best, and my coach is the best. But so when you say something like that out loud, it makes you drop your ego and go, what are other coaches doing better than me? Mm-hmm. What are they doing better? Like I can send the best macros and cardio in the world. Does that mean I'm a good coach? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, now I'm doing videos with my clients. Okay, that helps. Yeah. What about going to all the shows? Is that good? Yeah. There's other coaches doing all those things, right? I promise you. So then it also becomes about strategy. I have to learn strategy. I have to learn, how do I get my clients to compete? If I want someone to win their class at junior nationals, should they do a qualifier in Florida or should they do one in the Midwest? Well, maybe in the Midwest, the judges at junior nationals are going to see them. These are things that I've learned. These are things you can't learn by experience or without experience, right? Like I've made this post before. My first ever national competitor in bikini, went to Miami with her. I failed her. Like she had an amazing physique. She was beautiful. I didn't help her with her posing. I didn't help her with her tan, her hair, her makeup, none of that. She walked out on stage and, you see it now at the national shows. Someone walks out on stage and they look out of place. That was her. I just didn't know how. I literally, at this point, manage every single thing. I want to know what day you're getting to the show. I want to know how you're getting there. I want to know, what your tanning solution is going to be. For different shows, different tans work better. I need to know the lighting at the show. I want to know the venue so I know where to tell my girls to stand before the show. I leave nothing to chance right now when it comes to my competitors. I want every single competitive advantage because anything that I can help manage is going to be less stress. It's going to make the process easier. And I also realize that I don't know everything. So every chance I get, I'm learning more. I just learned a shit ton from junior USAs last weekend. I'd never been to that show. Next year when I go back, I'm going to be way better prepared. The show ran very fast. They said the girls would be on stage at 11. They were on stage by almost 10, right? So like I was telling them, hey, get your makeup done at this time. You should be at the show at this time. One of my girls who happened to be in first call-outs was still in the makeup chair when they started lining up bikini A and she was an E. That stressed her out. Like these are mistakes I won't make again, but you can't learn this without going to the shows, without seeing your clients in person, without talking to them before and after. And without also understanding that you have to take your ego out of it. You can't always be thinking like, oh, that's not my fault. It's the promoter that ran the show wrong. Oh, that's not my fault. The judges were bad. Oh, it's not my fault. My competitor flew in the same day as the show. No. These are all things that you can learn from and go, hey, do this, don't do that. And so if someone is interested in working with me, I hope they already know that. But I mean, that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the perspective of I am going to look at every single thing that's going into this competition and try to manage it.
Yeah, I like that. And as you said, for that competitive edge. So now let's say I'm 4 weeks out from a show, but I keep saying that I don't feel ready. So you believe I am ready. What's your response when I say I don't feel that I am?
Well, I want to find out what you mean by you're not ready. So are we talking about you don't feel lean enough? Do you feel, are you looking at other girls on Instagram that are posting their pictures of the show? Could you give me a hypothetical? So if I said that to you, like, okay, you're 4 weeks out, you don't feel ready. What's not ready?
Okay, let's say, well, I just was on Instagram and this girl said she's like hashtag 4 weeks out and she's looking way more lean and full than I am.
Okay, so and I have some great examples of this too. It's a bikini competition. It's not a shredded competition. It's not an ab competition, a glute, a shoulder competition. A lot of people look great in the gym. A lot of people look great 4 weeks out. Not a lot of people peak properly. Not a lot of people bring their tan, their stage presence. So it just depends on the individual. But if someone tells me that they want to push to get leaner, and I feel like that's a good move, I like to use that energy. Like you're motivated to do more and get leaner, let's do it. Very few people are truly stage lean 4 weeks out. So maybe we go ahead and go, you know what, instead of trying to hit our mark 2 weeks out, we go ahead and push right now. Let's use this energy as motivation and come in better. And then I have to also get into the head of that person and say, like, let's be realistic here. What's going on with you? You know, why do you think that this person is better than you? And then we can break that down. You know, I have some clients who have literally told me the day before the show they didn't want to do it because they didn't feel ready, and then they won the overall the next day.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of it is too. I have to also pump positivity or confidence into somebody that doesn't have a lot. I think, you know, young women oftentimes aren't the most confident, and oftentimes it's the most fantastic, beautiful, best physique women that are the least confident. So just, you know, being a reassurance, and that's one thing that having a track record helps. You know, like if they didn't know my clients, they might say like, oh, this guy's full of crap. What does he know? But because I've had some successful clients, you know, it does buy me a little bit of, you know, faith in people going, okay, I trust what you're saying because I've seen what you've done.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now let's say your client comes to you and says they've rebounded after their show and they just want to, and we talked about this a little, but we're going to get more specific. So,
Don't say it. I know what word you're going to say.
they just want to reverse it and get back to normal. So what do you do?
Oh, I thought you were going to say intuitive eating.
Okay, I was like, what do you think I'm going to say? Because I don't know if I'm going to say.
No, my worst nightmare is when my client just says, you know, coach, I've been overeating these last couple of days. I just think I want to start eating intuitively for a little while. There's no
You're
such
not ready
thing.
for that.
There's no intuition in post show. Your brain is detached from your body.
Exactly.
So you rebounded post show and you want to just get back into the groove.
Yeah, exactly. So like they feel like they want to reverse it. Like they wish they could like erase what they've done. They've rebounded.
So they put a bunch of body fat on and they want to lose it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So depending on the severity of it, it's impossible. You know, there is this, and I'm sorry if anybody's listening and they've gone through it or they're currently going through it and they're worried. You know, your body is so kind of finely tuned at the end of prep that its only thing that it can do is store body fat rapidly. It's literally like your digestive system slows down, your metabolic rate has slowed, your ability to store fat cells is hyper, it's faster, it's better. Your body simply becomes a fat storage machine at the end of prep. And it becomes very good at it because you can eat 3,000 calories when your diet's 1,500 and you won't even feel full. You'll be hungry. So hunger hormones are way out of whack. So, you know, I've seen it, you know, people being up 10, 15 pounds a couple days after a show, maybe a week after, and they're like, hey, I just want to get back to like a couple pounds over stage weight. You know, my response is let's just get into a routine. Let's just see if you can hit some numbers for a couple days. And let's just get back into your routine of doing some cardio and doing some training. You know, a lot of this should be some water weight, some glycogen, and then let's just see where we're at. But it's generally going to be, yeah, you definitely put on some body fat initially. That's not coming off, but we can probably get you back down to a place where you feel okay. You know, and I've even seen it where, you know, you can get back down to stage weight, but you just don't look the same. There's just the number on the scale is the same, but you just look a little softer, and there's a little bit of body fat that's more stubborn in certain areas like the core or the legs. So, you know, it's very important that you're paying attention to that post show, setting expectations. What should they do after the show? What should they do the next day? But, you know, ultimately it just comes down to, I don't judge them. I want to give them the best advice possible, give them the tools to succeed. Whether or not they succeed, you know, none of this is in my hands. You know, coaches probably get way too much credit for people's success, and not enough blame for their failures. But yeah, it's probably very important that we just kind of communicating through it, getting rid of the guilt, the shame. You know, some people feel bad. Oh my God, coach, I couldn't stop eating last night. Oh, what'd you eat? 3 Quest bars. Okay, let's calm this down. You're fine. There should be no guilt in eating food. Sometimes if you can get rid of the guilt, you can get rid of the cycle, you know?
Absolutely. That's actually something that when I was getting my degree in psychology, I was doing a like cumulative report on guilt from eating. And a huge part of it just comes down to an identity disconnect, which is something I work with the girls on. But like you were saying, like there shouldn't be guilt when we eat. And the reason there is, what I've learned and discovered is like guilt is really just a representation of a disconnect with our identity. So if you're identifying yourself as a competitor who needs to be lean or still shredded or on prep or whatever, then of course we're going to feel guilty if we go off plan, have more body fat, and don't look as shredded or aren't following a prep plan or the plan that we were given. Then that will create guilt. So like you said, developing something that's going to almost create more adherence so that they can stick to and follow the numbers before going extreme is a really great way to combat that.
Well, and that's one of the great things about, diet breaks. And the way I peak people is I basically walk calories up going into the show. So what that does is instead of, depleting and being on no carbs or no sodium or anything like that, the days before the show, my clients are actually walking their carbs up. So by the time they get to the stage, they actually feel pretty good. I've noticed ever since I started using this peaking strategy, I call it nonlinear loading. I'm sorry, nonlinear. Linear progressive loading. So Dr. Joe helped me come up with the name for it. It was his strategy that, he told me about, and I've been using it for a couple of years. By linear loading, I just mean we're basically walking carbs up every day going into the show based on how you respond. Well, by the time you get to the show, you don't have this overwhelming desire to just, go face deep in a box of donuts. You feel a little different. And, my favorite response is like, hey coach, what do you want to do after the show? And I'm like, what are you in the mood for? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that's versus like, someone that brought a backpack of Reese's peanut butter cups and gummy worms and all the stuff that they've been wanting to eat. And they just start, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just find it, when you use a diet break strategy, you realize that, these people can survive on more calories and lower cardio, maintaining their weight. And it gives them confidence to do so. And then when you take away the need to binge, you just improve the likelihood that they'll respond better post show.
Yeah. So huge, so key. And so now let's get into the rapid fires. And there's the first two. I'm like, okay, I know you're gonna say, but I'm curious about the other ones as well. So we'll just go through it. You get one sentence or less, and then you can pick maybe like two to expand on, three if you're like really fired up about it. So we'll start with waist trainers.
No.
If it fits your macros or the clean eating, bro diet, meal plan.
In the middle.
Okay, cool. Fasted cardio.
It's good for the right reasons.
And water cutting.
Never.
Steady state or HIIT specifically for fat loss without the sacrifice of fullness, especially in the glutes. Very specific.
Steady state, but never on a Stairmaster.
I might have you expand on that one. So yeah, that's the last one. So could you expand on it?
Yes. So this is probably my favorite topic right now for a few reasons. So when I was first introduced to contest prep, I was put on a lot of HIIT cardio, 2 sessions a week to start, and I think I ended with 3. And I played sports my whole life. I am competitive as fuck. Like, I'm going to say that word because that's how competitive I am. If you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it better than everyone around me. I'm low-key competitive, though. You won't know that about me. But like, the people that work with me and that, I want to win. Like, so when I'm told to do HIIT cardio and it says in the instructions, go as hard as possible, like if we go out to a track and run sprints, I'm going to beat every single person there, right? So my HIIT cardio that I was doing was very intense. So I did this in 2008 when I prepped, in 2009 when I prepped, in 2012 when I prepped, 2015 when I prepped. I did lots of HIIT cardio. In fact, I bought a prowler for my front yard. I had a long driveway and I used to push the prowler up and down. Me and Lauren Conlon did a bunch of videos on it, talked about the benefits of HIIT cardio.
Yeah.
And then it dawned on me watching a video with Ronnie Coleman called The Unbelievable. If you haven't watched it, it's basically old school Ronnie Coleman prepping for the Olympia from like, I don't know, early or late 90s, early 2000s. And he would basically get up every day and walk on his treadmill for an hour and then go to work and come back and walk on his treadmill for an hour. So he's doing 2 hours of walking a day.
Wow.
And I thought, Ronnie Coleman, the greatest bodybuilder that's ever lived, is, whatever, that's arguable, but one of them, 8-time Mr. Olympia. All he did was train his ass off in the gym and walk. And I thought, well, that seems silly, because why not do HIIT cardio? But if you do HIIT cardio, a few things happen. HIIT cardio is so demanding on you as far as recovery. Like when you do a HIIT cardio session, I would basically go take a shower and lay on the couch after. I would just be exhausted. I would always do my HIIT cardio at the end of my workout. And it never really dawned on me how much I was trading HIIT cardio for just daily activity. Like my daily non-exercise, my NEAT would just disappear. I would, this sounds silly, but when I think back about it now, it was pretty significant. I used to play a lot of ping pong at my office. I had a job in an office on a computer all day, right? And people would come and say, hey, let's, on breaks, let's go play ping pong. And I would break a sweat playing ping pong 3-4 times a day, right? Well, guess what I did during prep? No, I'm tired. I don't want to do that. I got to do my HIIT cardio. So basically what I was doing was getting so exhausted that I was just trading something I enjoyed, like ping pong, for something that I despise, like HIIT cardio. And granted, I enjoyed HIIT cardio for a few reasons. I think all of us that compete are a little bit mental. We like pushing ourselves. We like doing, I liked doing HIIT cardio at the gym on like the spin bike and making the whole thing shake and everyone's looking at me. You're a little sick. And people go, what the hell is this person doing? So last year, 2018, I decided, you know what, I'm going to prep this year and I'm not going to do any HIIT cardio. Because what I started doing with my competitors the year before was I started removing it. Let's pull the HIIT cardio out. They were just too exhausted. Some people would say they were stressed out thinking about it. It just seemed like, okay, let's just pull it out. And I started using more steady state, and lo and behold, people started responding. They started responding better. And when you look at the physiological response of HIIT cardio, you're sprinting. The response is to burn glycogen, okay? The intensity of exercise dictates the primary fuel source used. And this was something I learned going back to school. So there is a value in education.
There's definitely a value in that.
So low intensity steady state, after a few minutes, your body is primarily burning body fat as fuel. In high intensity, after a few minutes, your body is primarily using glycogen as fuel. Now, still, you're burning glycogen and you're creating an oxygen deficit, and your body the rest of the day is going to be burning more calories and all these things. But if we're just trading HIIT cardio for laying around versus doing some steady state cardio, well, maybe there's more value in it if you can fit it in the time. Obviously, the time difference is what matters. So I started doing this. I started taking walks around my neighborhood last year. I would time them, and lo and behold, I got leaner and leaner. I got nearly stage lean without doing any HIIT cardio, just by walking, and I felt better. In every previous prep before that, I noticed I would get dizzy when I stood up, and I never made the correlation to high intensity cardio, but I'll explain why I think that was why. I also noticed I didn't get cold. I wasn't as cold. That's another common complaint in prep. I'm always cold. I'm always cold when I'm lean. And a lot of people say it's because you have no body fat, but I don't think that's the reason. I'll explain why. So I also noticed I wasn't moody. So one of the big problems I had with prep was like, oh man, there's just this phase where I am a miserable son of a bitch. I'm tired. I am moody. And that's not really something I can afford to be when I have 2 kids, a wife, a business, clients. Like, these are things that, are priorities over my dumb ass getting on stage, right? So I told myself, I'm only going to get on stage if I can do it without interrupting all this other stuff. I can't interrupt my work. I can't interrupt my family. I can't interrupt my, and when I started getting leaner, then I started ruminating on why. So why do I think I didn't get dizzy when I stood up? Well, have you experienced that in prep ever?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're going to like this. So one of the adaptations to HIIT cardio, when you perform HIIT cardio, is to your heart. You actually really, really, really reduce your resting heart rate. Why? Because your heart gets so efficient at pumping blood, it doesn't need to work as hard. So my resting heart rate, my last prep, my resting heart rate one time I got tested was 37 beats per minute. And that was when I was at work. I can imagine what it was like when I woke up. It was probably 30. So when that happens, your heart is pumping so efficiently that there's less blood flowing around your body. So if there's lead, because there's more oxygen in it, so, and this is, again, this is all conjecture and theory. This is just kind of my take on it. But I noticed I wasn't dizzy when I stood up at all last year, and I did no HIIT cardio. And my thinking was, well, I haven't created this adaptation in my body. I'm not an Olympic sprinter. Okay. I'm not even lying when I tell you at the end of prep and my previous years, I was an Olympic athlete. Like, my resting heart rate was so low, my body was so efficient. I was running sprints, doing all these things, which is great. It's wonderful, but that's not the goal for a bodybuilder. I don't need to be an elite Olympic athlete. I need to look like I have a lot of muscle and low body fat. So I feel like allowing my resting heart rate to stay higher, not having that adaptation to HIIT cardio, caused blood flow to be pumped through my body more consistently. And the reason I think I was getting dizzy was when you're at a resting place and you have less blood in your head because your heart isn't pumping as hard, well, you get dizzy when you stand up. There's no blood there. And the second one is cold. Well, likewise, when you have less blood pumping through your body because you have this adaptation to HIIT cardio, you get colder. There's less, red blood cells pumping through your body, which kind of increase how warm you get, so I didn't get cold. Now, I will say I got colder, but I didn't have like this level of I was chilly, I would be like freezing at work.
Yeah.
And the last one was temper. And I think that just comes down to how much I was run down, training legs twice a week, doing 2 to 3 cardio sessions a week of high intensity, plus my training, plus low calorie. I just think, now I did get to a place where my temper got shorter and shorter the leaner I got, but it was much less abrupt. It was much more only towards the end. And I would say I was in elite condition, like well below 10%, without any of the signs that I had gotten in the past during that process. So those are the reasons that I have kind of, I still have some clients that do some HIIT cardio and prep, but it's usually at the beginning and then I taper it down towards the end. But I've just gotten positive feedback from every single person. And also, if you go for a walk on an incline treadmill, you're not hip hinging. So when it comes to muscle use, when you think about the glutes being used, when you step on a stair mill, every time you step, you're basically doing a lunge. And doing lunges for an hour, it would seem to reason to me that that's not good for muscle retention. So that's really why I pulled the Stairmaster out, because I think, like I said, we're all psychopaths, us competitors. My girls would be like, oh yeah, I want to do an hour of steady state, but I'm going to do it on the Stairmaster. And I'm like,
right.
that's high intensity.
Yeah.
So, so it just came down to all these things started making sense to me. Then I did it myself last year. And I even did a couple times, I even did 2 hours in one day. Not that I needed it, but I wanted to see how it was. Because it's kind of irresponsible as a coach to tell someone to do something that you've never done yourself. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do 2 hours. You know what? Wasn't that bad. I kind of enjoyed it. I like the idea of pushing myself rather than waiting for something to happen. And I think most competitors feel that way.
So what would you say, when you're doing your steady state cardio, how do you, how would you define steady state so that someone listening could be like, okay, I know I'm not.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about heart rate, and heart rate it's a tough one because a lot of that comes down to your level of conditioning. So that can be variable, but I would say 130, 140 heart rate is probably pretty good steady state. But my number one indicator is that you're breaking a light sweat. So you're after 4 or 5 minutes, you feel your body temperature come up. You feel warm. That to me is steady state cardio. That to me is your body basically getting to lipolysis, breaking down fat as fuel, burning it through the system. That little sweat that you're experiencing, that's your body being warmer. And so, there is certainly such a thing as too low intensity, like a neighborhood stroll with your friends is probably not enough. Now that's still activity. You're still moving. That's good. But when I want someone doing the cardio session, I want them doing it with the explicit purpose of burning the most body fat as possible. So that's why I like the incline treadmill. It's a predictable kind of pace and speed. without the necessity to like recover. You know, you can walk off a treadmill after an hour, and after 5 minutes, you're like back to normal.
Right. Which is nice, especially if you're deep into a prep.
It's wonderful because guess what happens? Your training sessions are better.
Yeah.
Well, we're bodybuilders. Like I said, we're not Olympic athletes. I don't need to be able to run, you know, a 3-minute mile or whatever. I need to be able to get on stage with the most muscle. The priority should be your training quality should stay as high as possible. What suffers if you do a lot of HIIT cardio? Your training. There's no way you can keep your quality of lower body workouts. You know, and then going back to that Ronnie Coleman thing, and I granted he was on a shit ton of steroids and he's a genetic anomaly and all that. You can take all that as you will, but the dude trains like a beast and walks. That's how he got on stage. Now, apply that to what we're doing. Train like a beast and low intensity, steady state, and use your diet. And I think that for me is the best recipe right now. That's the overarching theme. I don't, there's no one size fits all for everybody. I still use HIIT cardio and I still will use some of these intensity techniques and things like that. But those are just, that's why I say like low intensity, steady state over HIIT cardio now.
Right. And that goes back to what your philosophy is of, you know, taking into account what that person needs and creating something that's going to get them there and pushing them enough to do so. Now, you had also mentioned when I brought up fasted cardio, I just want you to expand on this one next. And that is, you said good for the right reasons. So can you explain? I know some of these are hard because it's like, obviously, it's not one size fits all, but I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Remind me what the question was.
Oh, fasted cardio.
Oh, fasted cardio. So a lot of people make fasted cardio out to be the reason they're losing fat. Oh, I do fasted cardio. I do fasted cardio. And if you're in a calorically equivalent environment, so let's say, you know, competitor A takes in 1,500 calories and does her cardio fasted in the morning. Competitor B takes in 1,500 calories and does her cardio fed in the evening. There's no difference in fat loss. And actually, some of the research shows that you burn more calories in a fed state because you have more energy, right? So you burn more calories. What the research shows is that if you do cardio in a fasted state, you burn more total calories from fat. But the problem is you burn less calories. So you're burning more total calories in a fed state. But I don't think that it's, in either case, I don't think that it's statistically significant, right? I don't think like the case can be made that you should only do fasted cardio. There's such a benefit to doing cardio, even if it's fed state, right? Because it's a 24-hour window that matters the most. So then people go, oh, you should never do fasted cardio. Well, false. What if you want to do your cardio at 4 in the morning? Well, I don't want to eat at 3:30 and then have no macros left for the rest of the day because I ate. If you can get up in the morning, go do a cardio session, come home, take a shower, then have a meal and start your day. Well, now you've gotten all this out of the way and now you have your whole day ahead of you. So that's where I think the value in fasted cardio is for people that want to be fasted or they don't want to eat early in the morning. So yeah, I have plenty of people doing fasted cardio, but I don't pretend that that's the reason that it's working. It's not that it's fasted. You know, those people, trust me, you know how it is when you eat early in the morning, you're starving all day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Counting it down, like you start doing the math, you're like 7 p.m. is going to be my last meal.
Exactly. Yeah. So fasting can actually be a good protocol for some people that their calories get low. I had a girl last year fast for 1 day a week. She was like, you know, my calories are getting really low. What do you think about if I fast 1 day a week? And she had an interesting job. She was a ER nurse. So she would work these like 14, 16-hour shifts. And she's like, I can barely stop to eat. So she and I came up with a plan. And this goes back to understanding what your client's life is like. I couldn't have told her to fast for 24 hours if I didn't know what her life was like. So lo and behold, we were able to keep her calories higher Sunday through Thursday, whatever, Saturday through Thursday. On Friday, she just would work her butt off and fast all day, go home, go to bed, wake up the next day, start eating again. She didn't even notice it because her mind was so, preoccupied with like saving people's lives and stuff.
Yeah, something like that. Well, that's awesome. And again, a testament to how much you do consider the lifestyle of your clients. So that really wraps up all the questions I had prepared. Do you think there's anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
I'm trying to think of the current trends, what's going on right now with competition. I think we covered a lot. I don't know, I do a lot of videos, so my mind is all over the place. So, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And if anyone wants to watch those videos and connect with you, and of course, even inquire about coaching, where can they find you?
Yeah, prophysique.com is my website. So, there's a contact page on there for competition, or there's a contact page on there for lifestyle. And then there's a questionnaire. And then basically what we do is my administrator, Karina, looks them over. And, based on what your goals are and where you are in the sport, you will either be sent to me or one of my coaches, and we do a free 30-minute phone call. We want to have that 30-minute introductory time with every single person. So I don't think there's it's a win-win for everybody. Like I don't pretend that I should be coaching everybody, but I am always looking for that next person that fits, and the same thing with my team. We're trying to put everybody in the best position possible to succeed through, current evidence-based research, things we've noticed, and, physiology, psychology. We try to pay attention to all that. So yeah, prophysique.com is the website, and, Paul Revelia on YouTube and Instagram are the best places.
Awesome. So I'm going to make sure all of that is in the show notes page. So for everybody listening, if you're listening as soon as this has been released, of course, it's going to be at the top of celestial.fit/podcast. If you are listening to this maybe months down the road, it'll be on celestial.fit/podcast, and then under the category section for the exclusive coaches features. So if you guys ever need anything, just reach out and I'll be happy to send you the link to those things as well. But Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and share so much, like seriously, so much value in this episode.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And will I be seeing you this year? Are you going to any events?
I don't know.
Where do you live?
I'm in California, Southern California.
Okay, so I'll be out there a couple times this year. I'll be at Brett's gym in July, just before USA's. So
okay. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I'll go to some shows just to watch and be present, but I'm not so sure. It just depends. And maybe I know I'm hosting an event at the end of the year as well, and I haven't decided on location, but
a bikini diary bash.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm gonna be like basically bringing together a group of bikini competitors for a bikini competitor mastermind, and
Cool.
Right now I'm just collecting interest for it, and then hopefully by the end of the year, we're getting at least like 10 girls together, if not more, and just talking about everything that happens post-show.
Well, good luck with all of it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So to everybody listening, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Make it awesome.